I am the same person who attended high school, went off to college, started a family, struggled through careers. The same person until I look in a mirror. Decades roll by, experiences accumulate, memories multiply, good ones, bad ones. Every molecule of my body changes many times over. Yet I sense myself inside altogether the same. I am always me, not just continuity, but unity. But is my unity of self an illusion? How does personal identity persist through time? I'm Robert Lawrence Kuhn, and Closer to Truth is my journey to find out. I persist through time, but how? I may feel happy, sad, energetic, lethargic, whatever. How is it the same I having these feelings? That's the crux of the question. If it seems obvious that I do persist, the more I think about all my changes, physical and mental, the less obvious it becomes how I persist. There are many theories, of course, in two big categories, natural and supernatural. I begin with naturalism, the claim that only physical things are real and only physical causes make sense. I go to Cambridge, England, to meet a philosopher of mind, ethics, and language, Simon Blackburn. Simon, how can we deal with this persistence of person through time?
The persistence of a person has often been compared to the persistence of a commonwealth or a club. You could have the same football club. It's got different players, it's got different managers, different ground perhaps. What's the same? Almost nothing but the name. So we might be more like a football club than we are like a little hard atom which stays the same for centuries at a time. And I think that's right. We're organized animals, and animals change and grow old and die. I think what we worry about with ourselves is that we like to think of ourselves as having a hard and fast identity. There's a persistence of memories, persistence of organization, a persistence of personality. It'll change, but there's a speed limit. It changes slowly. And I think that's why there's a problem of personal identity in a way there isn't a problem of, say, bicycle identity.
This problem of persons persisting in time is really two separate kinds of issues. On the one hand, it's the question of persistence of time of anything.
Yeah.
How does anything persist through time? And then what are the nature of persons themselves? So now you're combining two philosophical problems into a new problem.
Yeah, exactly. Because after all, the persistence of lots of things through time doesn't depend on the persistence of their parts. I mean, a tree's cells might grow and change over time as the same tree. So persistence of things through time can survive the non-persistence of their parts. And that's a general truth.
Your feeling and my feeling, my sense of self is a harder core, would naturally lead to some religious ideas of souls and spirits.
Yes, I think it's an illusion. But it's a very, very hard illusion to shift. So you imagine, for example, say somebody able to take two halves of your brain, each of them capable of supporting a functioning human being, putting one half in one body, another half in a different body, and then which one's you? And that seems very puzzling because we can't really wrap our minds around it. We can't imagine being two people, and yet at the later time you've got two people.
Now, some would claim at this point that this uncertainty is a further fact that cannot be adjudicated by the physical world. Therefore, there is something beyond the physical to explain the self.
Yes, I think that's a mistake, but I think it's a natural mistake. I think that it comes from what we call reifying, making a thing out of the soul or the self. Now, I don't think the self should be thought of in thing terms at all. I think the self is a principle of organization of a body, a living body. And if you've got two living bodies which are organized, you've got two people. If there's descendants of one person, well, that should be no more puzzling than the motorway splitting in two, and you've got two roads. Each of them's a descendant of the previous road. It would be a kind of parenting.
The question of how personal identity persists through time seems the conjunction of two separate questions, each fundamental. First, how does anything persist through time? Planets, oceans, countries, cars. Second, what are persons? Is there anything special about personhood? One answer could be persons are the same living organism, the self a principle of organization. But does this have sufficient explanatory power? It seems too simple, too general. And what of those mystifying split brain transplants? If my brain were split between two bodies, it'd not be like one road splitting into two roads, because I have an inner sense of unified consciousness, and roads do not. Brain transplant thought experiments are revealing. So I pursue them with the editor of Think magazine, a philosopher known for clarifying complex problems, Stephen Law.
We've got two individuals. Let's call one Jim and the other one John. They are sat down and their brains are removed. We take Jim's brain and we stick it in John's body. We take John's brain and we stick it in Jim's body. Let's assume that the brain is what causally underpins your memory, your personality traits and so on. The two individuals wake up. We ask the person in John's body, who are you? They're going to say Jim, because they've got, Jim's brain. The person in Jim's body is going to say that they're John. All of their memories have been moved over, as have their personality traits. That's a scenario we can envisage, and now we test our intuitions. Where did Jim and where did John end up? Now, most people will say Jim's in John's body and John's in Jim's body, and if that's true, then you do not necessarily have to go where your body goes.
What follows is that it's not my body that's me, because that changes anyway, but it's my memories, it's my personality. It's really my inner awareness.
Yeah, well, the idea that it's the it's the psychological acts that are really important. So you don't need the same body. You go where the memories go.
But you can have a case where I have some kind of a disease or a tumor in my brain. I could be amnesic. So now I've gotten rid of my memory, but you wouldn't say that I'm not the same person.
No, but then there would still be a great many psychological attributes that would remain unchanged. There would be your various personality. Those who go with psychological continuity as the relevant criterion tend to broaden things out from just memory in order to accommodate that kind of possibility.
Those who believe in a soul would claim that you cannot have personal identity over time without some sort of a non-physical component, because each of these physical things, all of that can go one way or another, but there's still the essence of this person.
Well, they can claim that, but they'll have to come up with an argument for it.
Well, the argument is just that in order for that person to continue over time, to persist through time, no other characteristic of itself has the power to do that other than some supernatural thing.
Why does it have to be supernatural? Why not natural? In fact, Locke thought about souls, and he was obviously aware of the idea that the person could be identified with a particular soul. But he didn't like that idea. And the reason he didn't like it is because he ran, in effect, the same thought experiment that we did with Jim and John, only he did it with souls. And what you do is rather than getting your two material substances, you get your two immaterial substances. And Locke was particularly interested in the Last Judgment. He thought that the person that God should be punishing for the bad stuff that was done should be the person that remembers doing it. So let's suppose that Locke is right. You go where the memories go, or where perhaps the personality traits end up. The problem you then end up with is this, that the river of memories